My name is Tom Wilson, and I'll be your host today. We have a special presentation by Ann Worth on nature immersion, hiking, and leadership in living your best life. Ann is based in Bonshaw, Prince Edward Island, is a business owner, consummate connector, economic developer, and passionate about helping her clients succeed. She brings over 35 years of business experience in various areas, including entrepreneurship, international trade, marketing, communication, agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and manufacturing. For the past 18 years, she's been president of the Worth Consulting Group and has provided professional consulting services to leaders across multiple areas of business operations, with the focus on enhancing operational performance to achieve growth. She also serves on various leadership positions in the not-for-profit and private sector. She's an avid volunteer, including the Atlantic Chair of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. She participates frequently in events for charity, including the most recently Easter Seals Drop Zone, which is rappelling down the outside of the tallest building in Atlantic Canada in Halifax. There's never a boring day by her design. Her motto is go get it. Welcome, Ann, and we look forward to hearing your presentation right now.
Thank you so much, Tom. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and to think that I might be able to make a small contribution to the podcast and the bigger picture of Hike the Highlands Festival. This upcoming September is really exciting. Hiking is absolutely a passion of mine, as it is your listeners. So it's wonderful to be amongst community to talk about something that we all are excited about on the regular. So let's dive in. Thank you for the kind introduction. I really mean it. And try and live it every day, that every day is an opportunity. It's a gift. And it's a gift. And I think our mission is joy. I think our mission is to create joy and to be joyful in our lives. And it's hard to talk about hiking without thinking about joy, because those two things are so synonymous to me, and one drives the other. So the presentation today, or my comments, will revolve a little bit around the things that nature really does, at least in my life, and maybe some of your listeners may be resonating or may relate to some of this. And I really consider being in nature a foundation for being able to accomplish great things. I think that it's a leveler for many people. And although we're forward focused in our comments today, I think it would be an oversight to not suggest that the last couple of years have brought some really distinct challenges through the pandemic. And if there's ever been a time that I've thought about the value and the importance of immersing in nature for physical and mental health, I think the last couple of years really underscores that in terms of it being a super strategy and a great tool for people to just be with themselves, be together in beautiful and energizing surroundings. So let's dive in. We're going to talk a bit about leadership. We're going to talk a little bit about some of my philosophies and how hiking ties into that. And I hope that there's a high degree of relevance for listeners.
Okay.
So, sort of the bigger picture, one of the core messages I have today is often people discover hiking sometimes by accident. Somebody else has introduced them to it. They may find themselves on a path that wasn't particularly planned. But I like to think about the metaphor of hiking being a bit of a journey in life. You know, the way that we undertake or approach, hiking on a trail might be similar to the way that we wake up and kind of approach life. When I think about, sometimes we get on a path and we're not exactly sure where that path will go, what treasures we will see on that hike. And in a lot of ways, I think about life being very similar. So sometimes, and maybe some of your listeners do the same thing, we ask ourselves, am I living my best life? Sometimes we take a little pause and we think, how are we living? And what kind of impact are we making? And I consider that with frequency. I think about, how am I giving? Am I experiencing joy regularly in life? Am I doing the things that are really important to me? And what I realized, and what I've realized, particularly over the past 10 years, is the closer I am with nature and the more frequently I'm with nature, it has a direct correlation to my level of joy. So I'm curious by this. I've wanted to explore it amongst a very busy life, and we all have different roles in life. Some of us are brothers or sisters or mothers or fathers or parents. We volunteer. We may have our own businesses. We may work and provide leadership to others in teams. Or maybe we're retired and simply looking to create joy in our lives. Whatever those many hats are that some of us wear, what I know is that being in nature helps power the effort. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of being in nature. I feel very passionate about this topic, so much so that I direct my volunteer efforts to some degree in areas where nature conservation is a focus. In your introduction, you mentioned that I chair the Nature Conservancy of Canada, Atlantic region, and that's a service of passion. I have the privilege to work with, in a volunteer capacity, with an incredible, talented team of people who are passionate about conserving natural spaces in Atlantic Canada, and the Nature Conservancy of Canada are a very important organization in the country that lead in nature conservation. So I'm very committed to that organization and serve on their national board. I'll also add that when we, from a family perspective, the more time you spend in nature, the more precious you realize it is, and the more important, keeping our, on a bigger scale, our planet intact, but being aware of the sensitivity of our environment and how we're treating it as humans. So, sustainable living in part is coexisting with nature in a way that respects nature. And being in nature helps me appreciate that more than anything. So back to the question, are we living our best lives? I ask and self-reflect on that a lot. And I've come to realize that I want to make life happen. I don't want life to just happen for me. So I think we can be architects of how we live and how much we foundationally include nature immersion in our lives as an individual choice. But I really believe that we can create a quality of life by embracing these gifts of nature around us. And we are so blessed to live in Atlantic Canada, where we're surrounded by pristine environments, whether they be oceanside or forested environments. And it's very important to me that we help maintain these precious natural places. So So I do a lot of different things. Here's a little pictures of me doing different things. But most importantly, you know, clearly the pursuit of joy might take place on a bike in Minto, New Brunswick, or on the Bonshaw River, or simply seeing a sunset or a sunrise. However, we all choose to be in nature, if it's hiking through forested environments or if it's on a boat or wherever it is. I think the net effect is the same. We get to connect with ourselves in a very deep way, and we can hear ourselves in what can be a really busy, distracted world. So being able to come back to yourself, you know, and just simply be present and in the moment is the incredible beauty that hiking and being in nature does for us all. Here's a little picture of a group a group of peers we helped. This is Cape Breton, in case you recognize it.
Yes.
We had the privilege to be a part of the Nova Scotia Hiking Summit, where I spoke actually and brought some messages there. Most importantly, what you're looking at here is a group of peers that are just connecting with each other. And this is the beauty of experiencing hiking in groups, that we get to experience joy together. And of course, that deepens connection with others and building community like you've done, Tom, and like others have done through the hiking festival and through this event, the Nova Scotia Hiking Summit, is really something that's beautiful. And this idea that we can be together and explore and discover species and environments that we've never been in before is truly a gift. And I'm grateful for this wonderful event that we had the chance to participate in Cape Breton and Shetty Camp Cape Breton. My goodness, maybe a mere 2 months ago. So we are wired for deep connection, and hiking can help facilitate that. And it can help empower us to realize that we can really accomplish great things. When you accomplish physical challenges in natural environments, it gives us a self-confidence that helps build confidence in other areas. So I think it has lots of benefits. I want to talk about building community. Tom, you're no stranger to that, and building community around things that we love, like hiking. And just in PEI, we have a tremendous community of folks that immerse in nature to hike, to do other things. And of course, I'm a part of that bigger community. One of the things that I do is I hike Monday to Friday at 6 a.m. in the morning, every morning in one of our provincial parks. And through social media, I invite others to join. And it's an open invite, whoever would like to come. And on a regular basis, I meet new people that way, and they meet new people that way. So it's a wonderful way to power the morning and to experience joy with others, to establish connection in Bonshaw Provincial Park, or perhaps Strathgartney Provincial Park, our oldest provincial park in the province. And here we go, hearing the brook trickling, hearing the birds chirping. I've gotten to the point where I'm touching trees as I walk. I stop, I smell. All of our senses are absolutely stimulated through these incredible immersions. And to be able to touch, feel, smell, and visually take in the forest at 6 a.m. in the morning is such a gift. I'm lucky that I live in the midst of an area that has a lot of dedicated trails between two parks. Therefore, the park trail system is out my back door, and I never take that for granted, because there's no excuses. I can get out and I can be in nature in minutes, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have that. So what I've come to realize unexpectedly is that I thought I was initially just getting exercise in the woods, but as it ended up being, we've created a lot of meaningful moments in conversation. I like to say we solve the world's challenges in the woods, and we talk about everything that you could possibly imagine, from recipes for plum pudding to more serious matters. I don't know if we're solving world problems, but we're sure enjoying connection. And the other thing, of course, it does is it provides a tremendous sense of gratitude to be able to just simply be present, and to meet new people and to develop community. So I believe that we are all having a great impact on each other in a very positive way. And if we can take that positive energy and direct it back into our lives when we immerse from those experiences, then all the people around us and everything that we do really becomes positively impacted by that foundational positive experience that we've started the day with. I like to say we feel like a team. It really does feel like teamwork. We're in this together, and some wonderful things have occurred as a result of community building with hiking. The other thing I will share around this particular activity, we've been actively hiking these parks for at least 4 years. Of course, I've actively hiked it long before, but opening up to public engagement and inviting people to join in has been really, I think, an unexpected pleasure. I didn't know at the time that it would engage people in the way that it did. I just knew I was doing it and thought others might want to. And we've had hundreds of people join in over the years, knowing that everyone is welcome, my motto, and it's rain or shine. Dress accordingly. I felt a sense of responsibility to ensure, of course, the safety of others and inviting people to hike various terrains. So I was proactive and achieved my hiking guide certification, hiking leader certification through the Outdoor Council of Canada. And that gives me a sense of confidence to be able to prepare people properly to hike safely and to be conscious and aware of themselves as they're enjoying nature. Of course, zero footprint means, being in nature in a way that we don't disturb it, but rather we respect it. And I like to remind people in our experiences around what that looks like and how we approach that. So it's wonderful. I think ultimately, people, what I've seen is that leadership has emerged over these years through different folks who then spin out and do their own hiking and do their own nature immersion activities. And that's really satisfying to watch. And I would say that everybody's leadership skills develop and are enhanced as a result of recognizing the power that they can have in creating their own hiking activities, maybe in their own communities or etc. What are your thoughts on that, Tom? Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. You indicated about how when you're guiding, people will often network and talk about tons of ideas and things that they've done. Certainly during Hike the Highlands Festival, the stories that I have picked up along the way over the last 19 years really opened my mind to a lot of things. For example, I met a retired school teacher who said that she had hiked Ben Nevis, which is the tallest mountain in Great Britain at 4,400 feet high. And I said, how was that experience? She said, well, it wasn't too bad going up, but it was some bad coming down. It took me 3 hours to go up and 4 hours to go down. She said, my knees aren't that great, and found that really hard on my. So I got to learn from experiences like hers, as well as people that did the West Highland Way in Scotland. I also met from other events that we hosted, a wealth of friends now that I have from Surrey PEI,
Oh,
who actually created the triple track or triple trail track, which is hike 3 hikes in one day. And it was patterned after our Hike to Highlands 3 Peaks Challenge, which was to hike 3 mountains in one day. And it has gone on to achieve pretty good results. And my biggest thing was I got to meet different people from that side of the island that I didn't know. My niece lives in Cornwall. And so the last time we were there, it was 2019. I got to experience Bonshaw Provincial Park. When I used to go over to PEI many years ago, it wasn't a provincial park then. In fact, it was one of the things I always remembered when I was growing up as a kid was that's the best place for go-karts, because it had a go-kart.
The famous Bonshaw 500.
Yeah, it was the fastest go-kart. Now I think it's Sandspit or maybe another group now. But things have changed over the years. We hiked on the provincial on Bonshaw, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Tom. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it's a nice,
wonderful. I
it's
live
nice.
across from Bonshaw 500. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to pick up on something that you shared, and that is everybody has a story. You know, it's the story of a person's life and the experiences that they've had. And it's amazing when people feel comfortable in, what they'll share. And I feel privileged to be on the receiving end of hearing those stories. Some of them, most of them, if not all, very dear for a whole bunch of reasons. I want to, it reminds me, your point about trails and challenges. I mean, I've been lucky to experience hundreds of trails, different types of trails, different terrains, and knowing trails and doing some prior research around the trails that you're on is really important so you can prepare properly. And of course, I've just had the lucky fortune to be throughout trails in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, etc. Every time I travel, I find trails because it's a wonderful place to get to know, a wonderful way to get to know places when you're on the ground and experiencing that. So, I'm sure that your listeners all can share some amazing stories about some of the trails that they've been on. And what a privilege to listen, because we learn from each other around the trail experiences that we each have. And if we can share those, then everybody's knowledge about trail experience exponentially rises. And that's great. We have this brain trust of trail knowledge that sort of becomes shared intelligence. So the other thing I want to share is, this business of, sometimes we have little injuries or, sometimes we exert ourselves too much. But generally speaking, hiking is so representative. Hiking is the single largest physical activity in the world, and growing. So, my philosophy about move it or lose it is absolutely, I believe this in my soul, that we need to keep moving to be healthy. And there's certainly lots of science and data to support that. But hiking allows us to move in ways that is very accessible to all ages, and accessibility to move in natural spaces is a really important bellwether for quality of life, at least in mine.
Yeah.
We'll move on quickly because I want to respect the time of listeners. We'll talk a little bit about leadership traits. I think they're very similar, in a natural world where we can face challenges. We have to trust ourselves that we can manage and navigate, sometimes challenges on a trail or the challenges of a group if you're leading a hiking group. We should just be ourselves, be authentically ourselves and, share our personalities and our joy and our passion for the environments that we're in. And of course, always respecting the abilities of folks and respecting their time. When I coordinate a public hike, I like to prepare people, let people know what experience they're going to have, respect their time, give them information about the experience that we're about to embark on, so people can ask questions and be comfortable, and also so we understand the capacities, trail difficulty, and these kinds of things. So I think structuring a hike and so on is very similar in many ways to approaching other kinds of experiences. Knowledge is power and preparation is success. So recognizing that, I think bringing leadership skills is really around preparing, being a strong communicator with folks that are joining you in hiking, so that you can create an awesome experience. That's ultimately what we want to do, create a great experience for everybody, and to keep people safe, and hopefully to notice and really be present in those moments. I want to talk a little bit about resilience. I think being physically fit, and I think to some degree, forest wellness helps facilitate our fitness, our mental and physical fitness. And when we have strength in these areas, I think we have stronger resilience to weather life's bumps and little moments that might be challenging. So I think about nature immersion as having a direct connection to building my own personal resilience to weather storms, to weather life's challenges. And maybe some of your listeners feel the same way, but you just, all those positive things happen physically when you're in nature. You can release cortisol, the stress hormone. Dopamine emerges from physicality. So some of those physical things that happen to us when we're exercising and being in nature are things that I want to embrace. And they ultimately, for me, help drive increased resilience in life for those times that we really, really need resilience. So what can we do to develop resilience? I say learn to relax, and being in nature helps us really relax and generates those feel-good emotions. It helps us to focus and to settle our minds. Some people say relax, but there's a lot of distractions in the world, and sometimes a lot of negative information. And while we can't block all that out, it's important that we recognize our own abundance and with gratitude. And nature helps us see that and helps us enjoy it and experience it. It also helps us pause and reflect on where we're at in our lives, how we're spending our days and time. And I've never spent a moment hiking that I didn't love. No regrets when it comes to spending time in nature. If anything, I'd like to increase my time in nature because it's such a foundational joy for me personally. That takes me to the next thought, and that's the concept of how we sharpen our saws. And we all know that trying to work with a saw that's dull, that has dull blades, is just not very productive. It doesn't cut wood very well. So we know that when we sharpen the blades of a saw, it cuts that much more efficiently. It's the concept of sharpening a saw. You can cut that much more efficiently. I think about our bodies and our minds in the same way. How are we sharpening our mental and physical saws? How are we? Because it enables us to be effective in our lives. So I love this little thing. I think hiking sharpens our saw. And I love this quote by Abraham Lincoln. If I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And isn't that the case? When we get worn down, overtired, and we get disconnected from nature, we just are not as effective, or at least I'm not as effective in my life. So knowing it's foundational, hiking helps me sharpen my saw, my axe, to be more effective in other areas in my life. So the ways to sharpen the saw, I've got it broken down into 4 areas: physical, beneficial eating, exercising, and resting, facilitated to some degree through forced immersion or nature immersion. Number 2, social, emotional, having meaningful connections with others. That's so important. Over the course of the pandemic, we know that there was a lot of loneliness experienced because of isolation that people felt. And being able to connect with others became increasingly important. And that helps us manage the day-to-day ebb and flow of life's challenges. Learning, how are we embracing reading, writing, and learning new things? Are we being open to that? Are we embracing new? Because we can feel really alive when we're embracing new things, when we're learning and reading, when we're experiencing new trails, when we're in a park we haven't been in before. Or maybe we're just reading about or taking a trip and learning about a place where we might want to go to that's inspiring, with natural areas. And finally, spiritual, spending time in nature and expanding our practices to help with our coping, whether it's meditation. Some people suggest that the forest is a place to meditate, and I absolutely believe that. I was in Ontario a few weeks ago, actually taking a course. It was called Forest Therapy Guide Certification. And in 5 months' time, I'll be a certified forest therapy guide. So being able to help people experience deep connection in nature, not just hiking through a woods, but to really appreciate and deepen their senses and connection through nature immersion is an opportunity for all of us. And I'm happy to be able to help guide that process into the future for folks with Worth Adventures. I like to think that I like to remember, it can feel overwhelming when we think about, boy, do we have to make all these changes? It sounds like a lot, but really, if we break down the opportunity to increase our chances to be in nature, our connection with nature, just the value of 5 minutes. I say to people, just remember, you don't have to take a full day. You can take 5 minutes and step outside your office or step outside your back door and go for a little walk. It doesn't have to be a massive excursion somewhere into a deep woods. So we have to look at our surroundings and our lives and figure out, where are those opportunities? Maybe it's a walk on the beach. Maybe it's a walk to your local park. So figuring out how we access those experiences will look differently for each and every one of us. These 2 pictures here are simply a picture of a beach walk I was on recently, and actually a picture of a trail called the Goat Trail in Strathgartney Park. One of my favorites because it meanders along the Bonshaw River, and there's so many blue herons and eagles that rest and nest in this area. And inevitably, when I walk on this particular trail, I get to see the wingspans of these blue herons and eagles as they're diving and soaring through through the sky across the river. One of my greatest joys is to stop early in the morning and see if I can count the eagles nesting in the trees from across the river. I've seen as many as 14 at one time in a small area. And some of them are mature and some of them are younger. But just an incredible gift to watch nature at work and at play as you're kind of meandering through the woods. Just a great time to stop and just listen and watch and smell and look around and just think about, boy, are we ever lucky to be able to even touch and see and experience nature at work. So 5 minutes is all you might need to break away from something that you're currently doing. I say resting is important too, because physical activity can tire us. But what most people don't know is that it actually builds energy. I hear people say things like, boy, you have a lot of energy, Anne. And it's true, I have a lot of energy, but one of the reasons I do is because my energy gets generated because of my time in nature. So I'm in nature every day. There's rarely a day I'm not. And I know that's a foundation to help achieve and bring energy to other things, including the people in my life, my family and friends, and my business. So, I just say break it down. Don't worry about long periods of time. You can take 1 minute to rest. You can go forest bathe or just sit in nature for short periods of time and have restorative benefits from that. So that's a tremendous gift if we take the time and build that into our calendars each day. I'll finish a little bit that piece with just the importance of nutritious eating. I'm no expert about nutritious eating, and boy, do I love my indulgences too, like us all. So there's some kind of healthy balance, but what I know is that when I eat nutritiously, I'm able to have more energy and feel stronger. And so that's just something to keep in mind that works well with physical gains from hiking and being in nature. Having deep connection with people is something hiking facilitates, and certainly I'm blessed to have many friends who share the joy of hiking with me. This is a picture of a few of us over in Fundy National Park. It's an annual event that we do. We call it Mermaids Go Wild. And these mermaids are just a group of wonderful friends who just enjoy nature every day. And here we are experiencing Fundy Basin and touching seaweed and being in a beautiful geological rich place on the shores of Fundy in St. Martin's. Reading the experiences that other hikers have is one of my great joys. You can learn a lot as you approach a new trail by listening to the experience of others. And, I think that you guys do such a great job, Tom, of, building community and people sharing stories, and congrats to you on this wonderful podcast to be able to make it available to people who can learn and listen to perspectives around hiking and life in general. That's great. We're sharing ourselves and we're being open.
That's
and
right.
this is really great.
Yeah. One of the things that over the last 2 or 3 years is I learned a new organization and some of the work that they have done, and basically all they're doing is sharing stories and experiences, of course, too. And so it's called Mountains for the Mind. And in Britain right now, it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 have mental health problems. And they have proven over the years that people that join Mountains for the Mind have improved their mental wellness. And I just suggest people, if they have an opportunity, to go to their website and just read some of their stories. It's much like your story that you're telling us today is, there's some good stuff out there that we all can benefit from. And hearing stories that by doing certain things, it can change us to a good thing. I think it's what people really want to hear now. Because the pandemic has really made it tough on people. I mean, it used to be just the pandemic, but then you put in the Russian and Ukraine war, and then you put in inflation and the cost of living now and everything else. And there's stats now that they're saying the millennium youth will probably never be able to own their first a house because it's going to be just beyond their means. So it's important that you hear stories where, by going out and doing physical stuff as well as and be involved in nature and stuff, it can make a difference.
Well, very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing sharing that. I think that, if there's ever a time that we've needed to feel connected to others and ourselves in a positive, uplifting way, some of those examples are very relevant to why we need to keep those core connections strong and feel grounded in ourselves and in community, because there are some bigger concerning things that are happening in the world, and it can feel overwhelming. So being able to disconnect from that and connect with our environment in a way that lifts us up and helps us be the best that we can be and be positive and be an example for others. This is the other thing, when you are doing the things that you're demonstrating a way of life and habits that build positive things. And that's the very best example we can set for the people that we care about in our lives, our family and children and friends and so on. That's leadership.
That's true.
So we talked about building our capacity to handle and manage stress. And we talked about how nature immersion can help be a leveler of that, help us build resilience in times of challenge, but I would suggest daily energy building. So we know this. And, my mission, or one of my missions, is to help wake people up to this, to help enable people to see and experience this deep connection. Because I truly believe that, the ability to manage and handle stress, the ability to immerse in joy and find joy in our lives, which is our mission ultimately, can be facilitated so well through connecting with nature. So it's become a bit of a mission. And it's not satisfying to me that it's only me that gets to experience that. I believe that, being an ambassador, if you will, for on this mission is an important outcome in my life. So I'm going to keep doing the things I need to do to introduce and to welcome people to connect in this way. So let's talk about bucket list. I recommend hiking nature immersion in your life every day on an ongoing basis. But I also, because I'm a business entrepreneur and I help companies grow, I help organizations grow and strategically plan for success. I also am a fan and proponent of being somewhat tactical and organized around setting goals. And I think that with, immersing in nature is no different. I think we have to think about the kinds of nature immersion we really want to embrace. Maybe you want to travel around the world and see different types of environments. Maybe you want to explore all the trails in your province, or maybe there's certain kinds of trails that maybe you love waterfall trails and you want to set some goals around incorporating diversity in trying different trails. So I want to encourage people to write down their nature immersion goals. Maybe it's diversity, maybe it's getting your family to come into nature with you. But I think when you write down your goals, they're much more likely to happen. They're in front of you, they're tangible, and there's evidence to suggest that written goals are so much more often achieved than if they're not written down. So, taking some time to pause and write down and plan and schedule these things in a bit of a business fashion is, some people might call it a bucket list, but I call it a collection of goals that are defined and that are prioritized and that actually make their way into your calendar. So it takes time, effort, resources, energy to implement these things. But I think that you can dream, maybe the Camino is a trail you want to do. Maybe you want to do the Island Walk. There's all kinds of potential things that people can do around hiking. But I think get that list together, and then begin implementing it, because these moments just top our chart. We want to develop highlights. I want my highlight reel to include wonderful hiking experiences. And I know the way to do that is to incorporate, hiking goals into my life along with other physical pursuits. So to finally and wrap up, I want to share that, our hikes, big or small, each day, they're all successes. We've successfully made ourselves a priority because you're investing in yourself when you hike, in your ability to be your best self. However, your best self for yourself, but your best self for others. So I think that's something to celebrate. And I think about celebration a lot, how we celebrate the gift of good health each day, the gift of, how we demonstrate gratitude each day, how we recognize that when we accomplish things, even small things, these are things that we should be celebrating. Sometimes the mindset that dominates can be, this isn't right. I didn't do this right. We have high expectations of ourselves and don't always realize when we get things accomplished that they are events to be celebrated, however big or small they are. So one message I'd like to leave is for everyone to think about each day, celebrate in some way. And that doesn't necessarily mean big parties, but maybe it just simply means patting yourself in the back and saying, you know what, I did a really good job handling that situation, or I got into the woods today for half an hour, or I phoned someone and connected with someone that I know is lonely, or whatever. There's 100 examples, but these are moments of celebration, and we need to celebrate and praise our own lives and realize how we are living lives of abundance. We have freedom in this country to do so. We have these natural spaces in our backyards, or close by. We have a quality of life really that so many don't around the world. And we, sometimes blindly walk through life, assuming that it's all just automatic, but it's not. So taking stock of each day of really what we have to work with is really quite a gift, and it's a blessing, and it's something we should be mindful about and celebrate. I'll wrap a little bit on that note, and that's, recognizing our own abundance helps us be optimistic. It helps us to feel positive, and helps us to look at life through the lens of a positive mindset. And what I know is that, at least in my own life, the more I look at and recognize the glass is half full versus half empty, the more optimistic and more optimism I bring to the people in my life, and the more intentional I am in how I approach situations. And often the outcomes are so much better when you can apply a positive mindset to the way that you move and interact through the world, which is always a choice. Each day, each interaction, these are individual choices that we make. And don't we want to leave positive impressions on other people? Don't we want to lift people up? That's the kind of impact I want to have. And nature is a tremendous place to help experience that together. And it just pays itself forward. I say, I love this quote. Gratitude and attitude are not challenges, they are choices. And boy, doesn't hiking help us build that mindset as we feel appreciative for being in these beautiful, beautiful places. And here's another, because we hike year round at 6 a.m., we love to laugh because hiking is so joyful and we always have fun. And that includes crazy pictures at the top of trailheads and so on. And this is one of the highest points in PEI at the top of Strathgartney Park. And always it's an incredible sunrise. And we love to send out funny, positive pictures and encourage people to start their days with enthusiasm. And that all begins because we hike. So isn't that great? And finally, nature immersion helps us achieve a state of gratitude. And when we can appreciate what we have, that's a great place to begin your day. And if nature and gratitude become one, which they generally do in terms of helping our mental states be appreciative, then we can really accomplish so much on the run of a day with the right energy in our tanks. So those are sort of the key messages I wanted to share with you today, Tom, and with your listeners, and encourage people to keep rocking their lives and stay committed to, deepening their connection with nature. It's an incredible gift, and aren't we lucky?
I just want to thank you for an excellent presentation. I think it really emphasized the importance of what nature can help bring balance in your life, physical and mental wellness. And I think you give some really good examples on how to do that. I think it's great that you show that it's, starts with 5 minutes and can go longer, but you got to start. But it's not that hard. Just go out and walk on the beach or whatever. And really, beach walks are just as nice as forest walks. And so I think your message today was just right on. And again, on behalf of Hike to Highlands Festival, we certainly like to say a big thank you, Anne, for a great presentation. And hopefully we'll chat more in the future. And Again, many thanks for today's presentation.
It was my pleasure. And I invite you all to come to Prince Edward Island for a future hike. And I hope I'm on it. Come to Bonshaw area. We'd love to have you. It's a wonderful place. But wherever your next hike is, enjoy it and pause and just be in those moments. Aren't we blessed? So thank you, Tom, for all the work you're doing to generate community in this space. It's really important, and you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Anne.
Okay. Have a great day.